It's 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in October. You're sitting in a windowless room in Fort Meade, Maryland. 6 monitors, 2 keyboards, a Red Bull you haven't touched in 4 hours, and a cursor blinking inside a system that controls the centrifuges at a uranium enrichment facility in Natanz, Iran. You're not there physically. You're never there physically. That's the entire point. Your fingers are in Northern Virginia. Your eyes are on a machine 6,400 miles away. And in approximately 11 minutes, if everything runs correctly, a country's nuclear program will begin destroying itself from the inside without a single missile fired, without a single soldier deployed, without a single bullet leaving a single barrel. The code has already been running for 7 months. They haven't noticed yet. You wrote 3 of the 11 modules that made this possible. You are 26 years old. You have never held a weapon in your life. And you are about to fire the first true shot of the first true cyber war in human history. Welcome to the most dangerous job that doesn't officially exist. Level 1. How you got here. Let me take you back to where this started. You're 16 years old in Fairfax, Virginia. Your parents are engineers. Your dad worked at Lockheed. Your mom at NASA's Goddard facility. You were built for this world. By 14, you had mapped your school district's entire network infrastructure from your bedroom. By 15, you had found and responsibly disclosed 3 vulnerabilities in a major American bank's online portal for which they sent you a $500 gift card and a form letter asking you to please stop. By 16, you had built a custom tool that could identify and log unsecured industrial control systems from publicly accessible internet-facing ports. You called it a hobby. The FBI agent who knocked on your door 6 weeks after your 17th birthday called it something different. He sat in your living room and told your parents that their son had a rare gift and that the U.S. government would very much like to talk to him about his future. You signed your first non-disclosure agreement before your senior year of high school. By 22, you had a bachelor's degree in computer science from Carnegie Mellon and a top secret, sky clearance most senior Pentagon officials don't have. By 24, you were working as a contractor for the NSA's Tailored Access Operations Unit, the most elite offensive cyber team on the planet. Publicly, they don't exist. Privately, they are the reason 17 nation-states sleep badly. You were good. Not just good you were, the kind of good that people in closed rooms speak about in lowered voices. But here's what nobody told you when you were 16, mapping school networks from your bedroom for fun. The moment you become that useful to a government, you stop being a person. You become a tool. And tools don't get to decide what they're used for. Level 2. What the job actually is. Here's what they don't teach in any cybersecurity certification. The cyber warfare ecosystem operates in 5 distinct layers, and most people who think they understand hacking have only ever seen the surface of the first one. Layer 1 is what the public calls hacking script kiddies, ransomware gangs. The people who make the news when they take down a hospital network or steal credit card numbers. Noisy, traceable, mostly criminal. Layer 2 is corporate espionage, state-aligned groups stealing intellectual property. China's APT-41, Russia's Sandworm, Iran's Charming Kitten. These groups have stolen an estimated $600 billion in American intellectual property over the past decade. Most Americans have never heard their names. Layer 3 is infrastructure targeting, power grids, water systems, financial networks. The 2015 Ukrainian power grid attack that left 230,000 people in the dark on December 23rd. The 2021 Florida water treatment plant breach, where an operator watched in real time as someone tried to increase sodium hydroxide levels to 111 times the safe limit. These aren't movies. These happened. Layer 4 is what you work in zero-day weaponization and deployment. A zero-day is a vulnerability in software or hardware that the manufacturer doesn't know exists yet. Your job is to find them, sit on them, and deploy them precisely, like a surgical scalpel, at exactly the right moment, in exactly the right target. The U.S. government currently holds an estimated stockpile of over 1,000 zero-days at any given time. Each one is a loaded gun pointed at infrastructure somewhere in the world. You helped build 14 of them in a 3-year period. Layer 5. The layer most people don't know exists is what happens after a major operation. the cover-up infrastructure, the false flag architecture. The code signatures deliberately planted to make an American attack look Chinese, or a Chinese attack look Russian, or a Russian attack look like a criminal gang from Eastern Europe. You have written false flag code. You have pointed the world's suspicion in the wrong direction on 3 separate occasions. And here's the part that keeps you awake at 3 a.m. in a different kind of way than the centrifuges did. You're very good at lying to an entire planet. And the planet never found out. Level 3. The operations. Let me tell you about 3 specific moments that changed the way you understood what you were doing. The first was the centrifuge operation. The code your team deployed, which you later learned the outside world called Stuxnet after it escaped containment in 2010, was the most sophisticated piece of malware ever written at that point in human history. It had 4 separate 0 days embedded. It targeted one specific model of Siemens industrial control system running at one specific facility. It sped up and slowed down centrifuges in random patterns designed to destroy them physically while simultaneously reporting to the operators that everything was running normally. The Iranians watched their equipment fail for 14 months before they understood what was happening. You watched it work from Fort Meade. You did not feel like a hero. You did not feel like a villain. You felt like a mathematician watching an equation resolve correctly. That numbness scared you more than anything. The second moment was the day you realized the code had escaped. Something you helped build was now loose in the wild, mutating, copying itself into systems your team never intended, spreading across infrastructure in Germany, Indonesia, India. A weapon designed for one building in Iran was now reading industrial systems on 5 continents. There are 16 critical infrastructure categories in the United States. Every single one of them runs on software. When your weapon escaped, you spent 6 weeks unable to sleep, not because of what it had done, but because of what it showed you was possible. The third moment was the 2020 SolarWinds operation, which you were not part of, but which you understood immediately when it was disclosed. Someone, the public consensus, says Russia had spent 9 months inside the software update pipeline of an American IT company called SolarWinds. When they pushed their regular software update, 18,000 American organizations, including the Treasury Department, the Department of Homeland Security, and parts of the Pentagon downloaded Russian surveillance code directly into their systems, thinking it was a routine update from a trusted vendor. That was the moment you understood the real nature of this war. It has no front lines. It has no uniforms. It has no declaration. It is already happening right now inside every connected device in America. And most people are completely unaware. Level 4. The truth. You're 34 years old now. You left government contracting 2 years ago. You work in private sector threat intelligence, $340,000 a year, health insurance, a normal apartment in Arlington, a girlfriend who thinks you do something in tech. You run 3 miles every morning. You cook dinner on Sunday nights. You pay your taxes. You look completely normal. But here is what you know that almost no one else in America knows. The cyber war is not coming. It is not a future threat. It is not something being discussed in conference rooms by people preparing for a hypothetical. It is happening right now. Russian state operatives are inside American utility company networks at this moment, not to attack yet, but to pre-position, to install dormant code that can be activated when a political decision is made in Moscow. The FBI director has said this publicly. Most Americans didn't read past the headline. Chinese cyber operations have exfiltrated the personnel records of 22 million Americans with security clearances including fingerprints, polygraph results, and details of every foreign contact those people have ever had. This happened in 2015. Those records are sitting in a database somewhere, making every American intelligence officer permanently compromised. Iranian hackers have probed American water treatment systems in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Texas within the past 24 months. North Korea stole $3 billion in cryptocurrency last year to fund its weapons program, and the United States is doing the exact same things back. You know because you helped build the infrastructure that does it. Here is the thing nobody wants to sit with. The most powerful weapon ever built by human civilization is not nuclear. It's not biological. It's not conventional. It's the 400 line piece of code a 6-year-old can write in a windowless room in Maryland that can travel 6,400 miles in milliseconds. That leaves no fingerprints. That destroys things that took decades to build, and that once it exists, can never be unwritten. You wrote some of those lines. You would write them again if they asked. And that right there is the part you still haven't figured out how to live with.